Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our next episode, and thank you for sliding into our DMs. My name is Dan,
And I'm Montana.
and I thank you for sliding into our DMs. And we are in this next episode, which is a very important one, especially with summer upcoming, and that is being disabled and having body positivity. I think for a lot of us, we have struggled with our positivity with our body, how we look, especially for those who are in the physically disabled community or have had multiple surgeries and surgery scars. I could speak for myself for a very long time. I struggled with my surgery scar that runs down my chest. I've had that my entire life. I've had multiple open heart surgeries, and it was always really scary to go to like a pool or a beach without like a shirt on, and I'd always wear like a shirt and have the excuse of like I just don't want to get sunburned. I'm just protecting my skin, where in reality it was more out of just fear and shame of my body. And I
Mhm.
think it's something that I know that I'm not alone in feeling that way for a lot of disabled people, and I think it's going to be a really wonderful conversation that Montana and I are going to have. So I'll pass this along to you, Montana, in the sense of like when did you first notice that you had a lot of these kind of self-doubts, and like how did you first approach them?
Yeah, well, first, thank you so much for sharing your story. I think a lot of us have had experiences like this, especially if you have a scar or if you have an invisible disability, there's still some insecurities because even though people are saying, "Oh my God, you look so fine, you look so healthy," inside you know there's something's not right and you don't feel 100% or that confident. For me, I would say probably when I was a teen. This was before I was diagnosed with an invisible disability, but it was probably around like 14, 15. And it was because I was in competitive dance. I am a very tall girl. My family's pretty tall. I now have a boyfriend who is a foot taller than me, and I'm 5'11, and I was not shaped like the other girls. I was a little bit more curvy. I was a lot taller. I think the other tall person there was like 5'7, and it always seemed like they wanted me to fit in these costumes, but they weren't making the costumes fit me. So I felt like I had to alternate my body or just feel crappy about things I cannot control. I can't control my height. My parents are really tall, my family's tall, but it was always talked about, oh, you're not the ballerina size. And for me, that made me very self conscious because when they said that, I didn't think of, oh, I'm too tall. I thought, oh, I'm too fat. And that really stuck out to me for a very long time until I moved to different dance companies and realized that they had a more positive image of, hey, accept all different types of bodies. Your body's beautiful for how it is. Accept who you are because your body is doing these amazing things. And I'm really glad that I was able to switch dance companies when I was like 17, 18. But even to this day, I still have sometimes those doubts creep in. I've been sick the last 6 weeks. I am getting a lot better, but I'm not working out as much as I used to. I used to walk and do yoga multiple times a week. I'm just now being able to walk up a flight of stairs and not get out of breath due to being on bed rest and just not feeling great. And there's been times of me thinking, oh my God, am I going to gain weight from this? Like, this is not good. And I've had to recorrect my thoughts and be like, you know what? Me gaining weight means I'm getting healthier, means I'm not fighting an illness anymore. If I gain weight, the next time I get an infection or illness, I can bounce back a lot quicker because I have this healthy weight. So there's been times where I've been really hard on myself because I haven't felt great to work out. But I've also told myself too, like, hey, it's okay. This is just the time in your life where you need to take a step back and be okay with realizing you're not going to be all muscle right now because of what you just went through the last 6 weeks. Your body was going through a process and you've been grieving through that. And now it's a recovery part of it. And recovery matters a lot more than a number on the scale and the size that you wear. And that's been really hard for me to just finally accept. Like today, I was trying on something and I was trying to force it. I'm like, why am I forcing this? Like, I should not be forcing anything. And this was something I wore like in middle school or high school. And I was just trying to see. I'm like, why am I doing this to myself? So I was like, you know what? I'm going to put this back in my drawer. Who knows, the next few weeks when I go back to exercising, I may wear it. But if I can't, I'll just get rid of it. It's okay. My body's changing and developing throughout the process of me getting sick and becoming a more mature adult. But for me as a teenager, I would be on the floor crying or like putting fire to those pants or something.
No, yeah, I think the whole point of it's all of these little things that we're told as well, whether it's
Hmm.
weight or height or the way that your face looks or anything, honestly. And then
Yeah.
it's compounded by the fact that you are disabled and it all kind of
Yeah.
stacks upon each other. And I think that's something that I definitely empathize with a lot because it was something that growing up I still very much am very like more of like a nerdy type of person. I was a more introverted person. And I was a very shy person and then like being kind of outcasted already and then even further outcasted because of my disability and all the things that I was going through. It was really hard to find confidence in my mind and my body. And that's the thing too, where it's
Hmm.
just the way that it you feel about your body is going to impact your mind as well. And it's so unfortunate because it gets this like
Hmm.
infinite loop where you just feel horrible about yourself. And it has taken me a very long
Yeah.
time to feel confident about how I am and who I am. Like I didn't show myself shirtless to anyone that wasn't like a partner until 2021 because I just was so self-conscious about it. And even then it took a very long time to feel that for the people that I was with. Um, and it's weird now feeling like this is a part of my body, this is who I am, and I want to accept and embrace that. But
Hmm.
and knowing that other people are not going to shame for it, but also knowing that I am different. And it is something that still shows that I've gone through an experience that a majority of people do not understand as much as they try. Um, so it's always that little like internal battle that you face sometimes too.
Yeah, and you definitely will have good days and bad days. That's one thing I've been realizing a lot with my recovery process is it's okay to feel completely fantastic one day and then the next day just not feeling great and being like, you know what? This does not make me less than anyone. It just means I need to take a step back and figure out what's going to make me feel better and what's going to make me feel beautiful at the end of the day. I don't have any like visible scars with my disability, unless my eyes are in a flare. And when my eyes are in a flare, I don't get a scar per se, but I do get my pupils. They change shapes. It's really weird. One time I had my pupils close to a heart shape. This was in like 2022, I believe. And it was because my pupils were attached to my lenses, and that's why it was making different like shapes. And they were also very dilated than they used to be. And I got very self-conscious when people would talk about my eyes, saying like, "Oh, what's going on with your eyes?" And that could be when my pupils were misshapen or when I was not on medication or my medication was not working for flares, my eyes would be extremely red and very, very uncomfortable. And people would always say, "Oh my God, you have pink eye. You shouldn't be here." Or, "What's wrong with you?" And I remember that really hurting my feelings. Like one time I was in college and this person said it to me while I was walking down the hallway, and there was a bathroom close by. And I just went into the bathroom stall and I locked it. And I think I was late to my class for like 10 minutes and I just cried. I was bawling because this was the point of my diagnosis that we were still trying to figure out my medications. I was not comfortable talking to the school about accommodations. I was not there to accept that I was different. And then having people basically point at you and laugh, it felt like, even though we were all college adults, made me just break down, being like, why is it like this? Like, I have no control over this. Like, so when you were talking about like your scars, it kind of made me think of when I'm in a flare, I have a temporary scar because of the what you can see now with me having redness and my pupils being different. But I also have actual scars. You just don't see them because they're in my eyes. I have issues in my eyes when no one really can see. And that's another frustrating thing too, that if I start telling someone about my diagnosis and what I've been going through, they're like, "Oh, you look fine. Like you look great. Your eyes don't seem like there's anything wrong with it." And even though my eyes are actually still irregular to this day, my eyes are abnormal to a normal human body's eyes. Only eye doctors will likely can tell because most people can't tell, but I'm like a few centimeters larger in my pupils than regular people. And it's made me feel self-conscious and sometimes insecure because of these comments. But one thing my dad did tell me when I was young, because I do have one scar on my face. I fell through a stool when I was like 3. I was like a toddler, and I was on a stool. My parents were in the kitchen. We were all like playing. I was like on like a high top. Everything seems fine, but apparently I was playing and I fell back, and my dad couldn't catch me. And I hit my chin, but my teeth went through my chin and there was blood everywhere. My dad scooped me up, freaking out, put compression on me. They took me to the emergency room quickly as possible. I was too young to get stitches. So we just had to keep the compression and all this. But they said it was going to scar. I have that right underneath my lip, but it started moving down as I aged. And when I was a kid, everyone would talk about that scar. Um, and also, I have a cliff chin as well, which is a butt chin, is what people like to call it
I
in
got one
elementary
too.
and middle school. Yeah. And so everyone would be like, "Oh my God, you have a butt chin." And they're like, "Oh my God, what's that scar?" And I would just come home like so upset. And my dad's like, "Montana, like scars are beautiful. You you just need to start accepting that this is a part of your story." And after that, even with me crying in that bathroom, I'm just like, okay, this is a part of my scar. Even though I'm not seeing it now, it's a part of my story of who I will become. So that's my long version of what my scars look like. Even though with me having invisible disability, it does come out sometimes. Um, and they are beautiful, even when we fully don't accept them at that moment in time.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That meant a whole lot. And I think that's something that I'm grateful that you had your dad there to be able to give you that advice and that it stuck with you for all of these years.
Yeah.
Um, and it's something that I think, like as you said, like even though for us our disabilities could be presented as invisible on the right days, and
Hmm.
people wouldn't know, and like in your situation it can flare up, in my situation it can flare up. And I think that's something too where we worry. Two things that we worry about is the one, like we just keep getting barraged with the same questions over and over by new people that don't know our situation. And that's like, it's normal to be curious, but it is very taxing to just continuously have to answer these questions over and over. The other thing that I think is very prominent too for us is just worrying that the people that we either know for a long time or those new people are
Mhm.
going to go towards more of an accusatory or doubtful thing, in the sense of like, oh, I've never seen you this way before. Oh, you don't usually look like this. Oh, you're usually fine. And
Mhm.
it's just like, is it worth the effort of having to talk this out on this trail that we're on or at the beach or whatever? Or do I just like not even attempt to bring it up and just like power through my pain, or just like come up with some lame excuse to keep my shirt on? And it's ridiculous to have to weigh those things out, because it's something that, like you said, like it's just a part of our story and who we are, whether it's a disability or a scar, or even outside the realm of disability, thinking about just weight, or just appearance in general. uh I don't feel like it's right to be critiquing on or criticizing people's appearances. I think there's that balance of being curious, and there's a right way and a wrong way to explore that curiosity.
Yeah, I definitely agree that there is a right and wrong way for the curiosity. It's normal to have these questions, but not all questions have to be asked, or you don't have to state like specific opinions per se. I know for myself, I've been trying to be more intentional of not saying like I'm sorry a lot, or if someone tells me that they just got diagnosed, a lot of time people are like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry you're going through that." Which I know they mean really well when they say like, "Oh, I'm sorry." I know that, but also I feel like saying that is not very empowering for others. So I always try to say like, "Oh, thank you so much for sharing like that part of your story with me. I really appreciate that." And then I share a little bit more about like my story with being like disabled, because I feel like that's a little bit more empowering of being like, "Hey, I see you, and you are capable and you are beautiful, even with having this disability." Well, I'm sorry feels very pitiful. And I don't like it when someone says it to me. Correct me if I'm wrong, if anyone in the comments says it in a specific way that works really well for them. I just haven't found it that works well for me in saying it. But I think just acknowledging like, hey, I see you, I'm here for you, and I accept you is so powerful, instead of saying like I'm sorry, because it shows them that hey, you are seen, you are cared for, and you will like get through this bump that you're going through with first getting diagnosed, going through the ups and downs of your treatments and diagnosis, because we all know we have some good days and some bad days where we feel really great about ourselves, and then some days where we feel really crappy and we just don't want to go out, and that's normal and it's okay. All that matters is just trying to do what's like best for us. But yeah, I think it's really important to acknowledge that it's okay not to be fully okay and fully where we want to be at that time. Because I know for me, with my body image and how I feel about myself, it's gotten a lot better since I was a teenager. I'm super happy with where I'm at, but I always have room for improvements. Like, hey, today I was over here thinking, oh, should I force myself wearing something that's uncomfortable just to say I can wear this? I'm like, no, let me be comfortable and cute and deal with this later, you know?
And I think that's the thing, where it's just we need to find and be comfortable with our own style. And I think that's something that a lot of people feel. And I think, thinking about this from disability as well as just in general, people feel like they need to fit into a box and they need to conform to
Mm-hmm.
the majority of the society and what the majority thinks. But in reality, I think it's just, I I've learned this a lot too, and I think it's very intersectional in terms of just thinking about what makes you feel confident and how you want to present yourself in the way that makes you feel most happy. I know for me, like thinking about these things, like when I have to wear my crutch, and I feel so empowered and I feel so happy about it. And obviously there's going to be people that will ask questions or be confused, and that happens.
Hmm.
But it's also like thinking about like that confidence, and that allowed me to feel confident in what I'm wearing just regularly, whether I have my crutch or not. Like I dress more in a, I'd say, androgynous, in a sense of like it's non gender conforming clothes. I just wear very much like things that don't show off my body, and that's just because I like the way that it makes me feel, and I feel confident about that. And it's just like I found it took me so long to feel confident in myself in my disability that it was hampering my ability to feel confident in just like how I present myself in the way that I want to present, not only just like my apparel, but also just like how I act around people in general. So I think it all builds upon each other, where because we have been able to find more confidence in our disability, we've been feeling more confident in our ability to dress the way that we want, to present ourselves in the way that we want, to be able to do these public speaking things, like all of these wonderful things that we're able to do, or the ways that we
Hmm.
just want to present ourselves to the world, are all thanks to the way that we have been able to figure out our confidence in our unique journey of body positivity.
Yeah, 100%. I know for my style, I don't know if you ever do this, but some days I'm just like, okay, I've been in sweats a lot because I've just been like lazy. Well, not lazy, just want to be comfortable. And sometimes I change it up to like wear a dress or a skirt. And I'm like, oh my God, I feel like so much better. Or just buying something new to wear. I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool. Like trying different styles. That has helped me a lot with my confidence as well as like my body image. For me, I would say my style is okay, I would like to be comfortable. So even if I'm wearing something like very cute to me, it has to be comfortable at some point. So that's why I really love dresses and I love skirts. And I used to hate wearing crop tops, but now I really love wearing crop tops, especially when you're in North Carolina. And this week it's going to be 102 throughout
I
the
guess
week. It's really hot
that's
where I'm at. Yeah, yeah. It's yeah, we're having a very hot summer. Um, and I've just found like my style changes a lot, and I really like changing things up of with if I'm wearing a dress, if I'm wearing like sweatpants, or if I'm wearing athletic clothes. I know for me, if I try to get back into working out, a lot of the time I put on my athletic gear on like my leggings and like a crop top or a tank top on to kind of encourage me and also motivate me to, hey, like let's try to see how yoga feels. So for me, my style um is just how I feel that day, or how I want to express. But I've also realized with me wearing stuff, like it's for my expression. I don't want other people to say anything like about it. I don't know if you've ever had someone say anything, but I know I had a relative of mine that I haven't not been feeling well for a while, and I wasn't in pajamas per se, but I was in like sweats. And I just decided, okay, I need to get out of the house. I haven't been out of the house for a while. I've just been sick in bed rest. So let me do something. This was actually a few months ago when I was sick again, but they said something of, oh, like you're actually like wearing that out of the house. And I remember being so pissed. I was so angry.
as you
I was like,
should.
oh my God, I got out my pajamas. Like I felt good about myself because I got out of bed, first of all. Second of all, I walked to the car to drive, which I couldn't do for a hot minute. And then I started hanging out with people, and was starting to feel like a lot better and confident. And then all of a sudden, they thought it was a joke, like saying that. I'm like, excuse me. And I looked at my partner. I'm like, oh my God, someone better hold me back because I'm about to rip this person a new one. But my partner thankfully talked to the person, was like, hey, like that was not cool, which is fantastic that he was able to do that because I don't think I would have kept my cool at that moment. But why I'm sharing the story is it matters what you say to someone, even if you think it's a joke or you're being funny, um, or you're just trying to be a comedian. This is someone's like actual feelings. Like that hurt me. And even though this happened months ago, I still think about it to this day. And sometimes I do get worried when I see this relative if they're going to say it something like that again, because we're not super close and they don't know like what I'm going through like right now. And I'm like, I swear, the next time I see this person, if I'm wearing something that I feel comfortable in, if they make a comment on it, I'm going to be upset. But I also feel like as a woman, a lot of people, and I don't want to generalize, but in my experience, a lot of men think it's funny to comment on women's appearances a lot.
Yeah. I think that is an accurate assessment.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. Like, it's crazy. Like, there's always those examples for like a thing a parent says to a kid that, to the parent it doesn't seem like a big deal, but it's absolutely soul crushing to the child. And
Yeah.
it's one of those things, like a kid will bring that up like when they're 20, 30 years old to the parent. The parent has no recollection. And it's just that idea of like, it's the same concept of like, it's not only just the children, but if I were to say something to you that was incredibly mean, um,
Hmm.
and it stuck with you, that's gonna affect you emotionally and make you second guess certain things, or whether it's about a passion or a clothing piece or um just anything. Like, if you're excited about something, and it's something that I in a week could very easily just forget about the rest of my life, but that's something that could stick with you for years. And that's something that I think it's so vital to always be conscientious of, not only what you're saying but how you're saying it, because you could have good intentions
Yes.
too about what you're saying, and it can come across as not very nice. And the
Yeah.
second part of it is just making sure that we encourage allies to not be afraid to speak up. I think it's wonderful that your partner was able to be there for you and to be able
Yeah.
to just talk to that person. Like, you don't have to make a scene about it either. It's just
Yeah.
taking them aside and just kind of be like, hey, like, that was not a thing that you should be saying, or giving context in terms of your comfortability or anything like that. Um, and I think that's something that I think all allies and all people that are trying to help people in their body positivity journey, um, should not be afraid to speak out and help their friends or their family or their partner or anyone that has those doubts.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm super lucky that I have a partner that does speak up. He also knows that I can get hot-headed sometimes. So I give him a look, especially when someone says something that I'm not happy with. That I'm like, okay, dude, like you take this over, or I can take this over, but I'm going to be a lot more direct and everyone's going to know what's going on. So, which I probably can work on that a little bit better. I have been better at like being direct and like talking to people about it. But in that moment when I felt somewhat attacked and I'm over, I'm like, really? Like, I wanted to kind of come back to that person and be like, really? Like, you're really saying this with me, like being here trying to celebrate this event? Like, is this appropriate? I was going to say it like that with the tone, because tone means everything. I talk to
Exactly.
my partner and my friends about this a lot. I love them all dearly, but sometimes their tone comes across kind of rude, kind of snarky, or they just sound really tired. And I always ask them, like, I'm just going to ask you this once, but is this how you are feeling? Because this is the tone I'm getting from you. And like 80% of the time, they're like, no, I'm not feeling this way. I'm like, okay, then why is the tone basically telling me to F off? Like, respectfully.
Yeah.
So
No,
yeah, I
and
definitely
that's
think tone is important.
for sure. And it's funny, I teach this at my camp and my outdoor educator classes, that what you say is so vital. And whether that's in person vocally or um through text or email or anything, it's just there's so many ways that our tone could be interpreted or misinterpreted. And it could really, your voice in any way that it's used, verbally or non-verbally, can be a help or a harm to people, and we need to make sure that we're always trying to go towards help.
Yeah, I love that. Help or harm. Definitely try more towards the help.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing to think about. Especially. I feel like we need to be taught this a little bit more in our education system. I know we probably talked about this a little bit in like school, but I feel like it's so important to talk about it more, especially when you are going away from college and going into a work related field or moving up in your career, that hey, tone and what you say really does matter. Because even I know a lot of people my age, I feel like always makes excuses of, oh, that was just a joke. Oh, I was just roasting you. And I've never got along with a lot of people like that because to me,
No.
it's unkind.
Yeah.
You saying something that I'm very self-conscious about, and I'm self-conscious about. For me, it was my eyes at that time because I was having vision issues. You roasting me on what my eyes look like, that's not funny. That is bullying to me. So I would really love to know like your opinion on like roasting and joking when someone comes back after you bring it up being like, "Hey, like that was really insensitive. Can you please like not do this anymore or just be aware that this bothers me," and they come back being like, "Oh, it was just a joke. Like it was just me roasting you." Because I've had several people say that, like when I was in college, about like my eyes, about what I was going through. And for me, it wasn't funny, but I also at the time did not have enough energy to continue that conversation because I felt like I was just hitting a wall. So I just decided to separate myself from those individuals and lose that friend group.
Yeah. No, it's something that I teach kids, and I started actually talking to adults this way because I think it's very helpful because a lot of people don't realize it's just people, a lot of people, especially nowadays, especially with social media, especially with just like everyone feeling like they need to express their opinion, is that people don't have a filter. And it's this idea of like, what are inside thoughts and what are outside thoughts? And what are things that you should say? And what are things that you might think maybe as an intrusive thought or
Mhm.
something that is just in your mind at that time? And what you shouldn't say out loud? And what are the thoughts that you are keeping inside that you should realize that are, hey, maybe I shouldn't be thinking this and change my perspective or try and understand other people or have empathy. So I think it's one of those things where unfortunately um our society is creating a filterless world where people just want to say whatever it is to be the most controversial, or that they you think if someone gets mad at them they're being a hater or
Mhm.
anything like that. It's not a good thing to be brutally honest. Like there's always those people that are like, I'm so brutally honest. Like that's not a good thing. You should have a filter. You should have an idea of what is a right and wrong thing to say. And
Yeah.
the things that are not right to say, you should be thinking, why are you thinking this in the first place?
Yeah. 1,000%. Because I know I catch myself thinking something. I'm like, oh, wait, Montana, why are you thinking this? Is this okay? Think this way. Okay, why are you thinking this way? Shift your perspective. And then I've had individuals when I brought it up to them saying, hey, I'm uncomfortable you saying this. They're like, oh, it's just a roast. It's a joke. Like you're just being so insensitive. And I'm like, no, I don't think I'm being insensitive due to it being like my actual body and my health issue that you are like saying. And then they would get mad. They would feel like they are the victim. And it was just like this spiral. And I just got so exhausted from it that because I thought they could possibly change after me telling them a few times. Because before I was just like kind of brushing it off. I'm like, you know what? They probably don't mean anything by it. But I think it was like the third time that I was like, you know what? I'm done with this. And that was when I started feeling confidence with myself and confidence with my disability of like, hey, this is who I am. I should not be treated this way, even though they keep saying it's a joke. And so that's why I brought it up. And then they're like, oh, like I didn't mean that. And then they acted like I was being mean to them and they brought it back onto them. And I was always confused by that. But I think that's definitely good to know about the unfiltered of how people are saying they're brutally honest. It's great to be honest and to give your opinion, especially when it's asked by a friend, but you should not be deliberately hurt hey, can you be aware of what you're saying?
Yeah. Um, but yeah, I think we've touched on pretty much every part of the body positivity journey. And it's a difficult one. It's one that never really ends. We just find ways to conquer new doubts, new fears, new insecurities.
Mhm.
And it's just so important to remember that you are loved, you are all beautiful. We all have so many different things that make us unique, and you should always unapologetically embrace those parts.
Yes.
So with
Everything that Dan just said.
yes,
Perfect.
I I'm so grateful for all of you. I hope that you all have had a wonderful time listening to Montana and I talk. If you love this episode, please don't forget to like, subscribe, comment. We have a Patreon, as well as an Instagram. And we would love for you all to follow. With that, I hope you all enjoy your summer. I hope you find that wonderful community. I hope you find that ability to feel confident with your body and your mind. And I want you all to be able to do the best things that you have planned. So, with that, I want to thank you all for sliding into our DMs, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.
Thank you guys. Be well.